Hi, folks. This is Jack Spirko with part 3 of why QE3 will work. And as you can see, I'm doing this in a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm doing so because I really want you to understand what I'm saying. I want to bring in some proof points for those of you who have no idea who I am and haven't been listening to me for 4 years. I want to give you some of my track record so you can understand why you should possibly at least consider what I have to tell you. And I want to make sure that you understand what I'm not saying about QE3. What I'm not saying is it's a good idea. Some of you guys in your comments, it's just like you could not have listened to the 2 previous videos to this one. You could have listened. You had to look at the freaking title and go, he's wrong, and then do your stupid comments. How about for a change you listen and maybe you'll learn something? I did not say, and I'm not saying it will fix the problem long term. Did not say that. Absolutely. There's no way you could have come away from that, but I have to say it here so that possibly you'll understand that's not what I'm saying. 3, I'm not saying it won't be a disaster in the end, okay? I'm saying that it's designed to do certain things because a disaster financially is coming. The people in power know that. So I'm not saying this won't result in disaster. I'm not saying I agree with the choice to do it. In fact, I'm not saying I would have done it myself. I'm not saying any of those things. If you got that impression from the last videos, all I can say is you didn't pay attention. There's absolutely no way you could have paid attention to those videos and actually heard what I said, paid attention to what I said, and come away believing any of these things, but many of you did. So straight out here in part 3, I wanted to tell you that's not the case. And what I want to do is I want to ask you one thing, and only one thing during this presentation. Please let go of your pre-programmed views about this and listen with an open mind. If you come from a standard mainstream media understanding of these things where you've been indoctrinated to the belief system of the average American, let go. And if you come from the alternative media standpoint where everything that they do is bad, everything the government does is bad, everything the Fed does is wrong, let that go too. It's not that I don't even believe that. I'm saying that you do not understand the timeline of things. And one of the best ways I can explain this to you is people try to put the Fed Reserve and Keynesian economics into a box as though it's an acute illness, something like Ebola that kills fast. The problem with Keynesian economics, Federal Reserve policy, the modern economic system that we have is it's a cancer, and it's a contagious cancer. It takes a long time to kill, and sometimes you can look very, very healthy while you're about to die from cancer. That's what we're dealing with, and if you don't understand that timeline, it's very understandable why it's hard for you to get your head around something like QE3 will work. So last time I told you guys that banks were buying gold, and some of you doubted this. Well, this is from June 11, 2012. It's from the Wall Street Journal blogs. Central banks back to buying gold. It's pretty clear that at that point they were buying lots of gold, but are they still doing it? September 25th, here we are on Forex Pros. You're looking at an article saying central banks buying pushes gold higher on session. Here's another one, September 26th. Gold may hit 2,500 in 3 years as banks buy, Newmont says. This is on Bloomberg Business Week. So you have a wide assortment of alternative mainstream media reporting the fact that the banks are buying gold. Yes, they're buying gold. Some claimed I don't understand monetary creation. Somebody said, it's all journal entries. You don't know how money's created. I mean, just please stop just thinking that everybody that has a view other than what you might express is ignorant and stupid and doesn't know what you already know. This is a video. You can look down at the bottom of your screen here, at the bottom of the screenshot. You can see that I put this out on January 11th, 2011. This is me telling you that the debt ceiling would be raised, that it had to be raised and why, and explaining monetary creation very eloquently, exactly how monetary creation happens. So if you don't think I understand monetary creation, stick monetary myths and the debt ceiling in the little search box on YouTube that's right there, and you'll be able to see exactly that I know exactly how money is created. I get it. That's why we have the problem, folks. I understand. I want to be clear right now. I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm not trying to say, see, look. The thing is that I've had so many of you guys that watch these videos saying, who are you to say this? How are you smarter than so-and-so and what have you? I have a track record. I've been doing this for over 4.5 years now. Everything that I've done in the last 4.5 years has been documented on a show called The Survival Podcast. Especially early on, 2008, 2009, and then some in 2011, I was really more focused on some of the political aspects instead of self-sufficiency aspects of things, telling people what's coming so they could get ready. So what have I predicted so far? I predicted the economic collapse in 2008, 2009, first publicly in June of 2008, which was the month I launched my show. It was as early as I possibly could have known it was coming. I knew for a long time it was coming. It was a huge part of why I created the show in the first place. I wanted people to protect themselves. I called it very, very accurately. You can go back into my archives and listen to me do it. I called the bailout of the banks before the collapse occurred. So when I was saying it's gonna collapse, I was also saying when it does, there'll be opportunity there because the government's going to bail them out. I didn't know exactly how, but I knew that there would be a bailout and what I call a false recovery, which is also what I predicted, a false recovery of the market, the one we're currently in. So I predicted this. Anybody that looks at this right now and thinks that we're really in recovery with the stock market back up and all this other stuff knows, if you really know what's going on, that it's all false. It's all inflated. The Fed bought a bull market. They're continuing to try to buy a bull market. And it's a recovery on paper, but people still aren't working. People are still hurting. And at the same time, companies are reporting, super high profits. I also said that the healthcare bill would be designed to fail before it was on the floor and that it would pass. And there was no sense in even worrying about fighting it. They would ram it through and pass it, and they did. And now there's all types of independent doctors, clinics, etc., that take cash only, that are out there saying the reason this was done in the first place is it was designed to fail. If you listen to me, you knew that before it even passed. I also said in this was in December of 2011 that the most dangerous threat in the news and in the debates for the presidential election would be Iran. And we were going to hear more about Iran than anything else. The way things are going, maybe it'll be Syria. But you know what it won't be? It won't be the economy. Yeah, I know they debated last night and they talked a lot about the economy. They're gonna drive this election toward national defense and toward warfare because it's an advancement of more military hardware, and that's what it's going to be. You're going to hear it over and over again. Watch it play out. I also said in 2010, big money is going to pour into agricultural and timberland. I don't have proof point slides for you on that, but if you want to investigate that, you'll find that it absolutely did. That's happened hugely with billionaires putting their money there, and there's many other documented occurrences. I have about a 95% accuracy rate. I do get it wrong about 5% of the time, and sometimes I get it very wrong those 5% of the time. But 95% is probably better than most people get because I really look hard at things before I make a prediction of what's to come. And in this case, I am very certain that I'm making an accurate prediction for you on what QE3 is designed to do and where it's going to lead to. So let's look at this. There's one thing I left out in the last two videos about what the banks are buying. The banks are buying high-quality stocks right now, and so are many investors. One of the things I kept telling people is during this downturn, companies were going to make record profits, and everybody thought I was crazy. Okay, here is an article. This was in Forbes, I believe. 5 dividend stocks shoveling cash to shareholders in 2012. When the market retracted, the stocks, the companies, especially the companies that were profitable, saw this coming before it happened. They were already in position to lean out their workforces, do layoffs, contribute to the massive growth in unemployment. They did so. They did so smart. They didn't just slash. They got rid of the low producers. They got rid of the jobs that weren't really necessary. They got rid of redundant positions. This is part of why the economy has not recovered from an employment standpoint, because these companies didn't just send your jobs overseas. That is a lie. They sent some jobs overseas, but what really happened is many of these positions didn't get sent overseas. They didn't get sent anywhere. They were eliminated. They're eliminated. They're not coming back. It would take the building of new industries to bring new jobs to really reduce unemployment. So when a company does that and the stock market falls on its ass, and yet their stock only falls 4 or 5%, maybe 7, 8%, companies like Walmart and other big blue chip companies, IBM, etc., ExxonMobil, didn't really come down that much with the recession, created some buying opportunity, but not that much. Those companies became so much more efficient through this downturn that when the thing turned around with the false recovery spurred by bailouts and bank bailouts and everything else, their stocks came back up to the median price, and their production per share on dividends has grown. And the hottest sector in the market for intelligent long-term investors right now is dividend-producing stocks. Entire mutual funds are being built around 5% or higher dividend producers with a historical record of that. For the record, I have been positioned that way since about March of 2009, if that tells you anything. And I am beginning to exit those positions personally. I don't tell you what to do with your money. I just tell you what I've done. You make your own decisions from there. But the banks are buying these stocks now. They'll continue to buy these stocks, and they will drive the market up. This is what we have to look at. You have to stop thinking that it has to fail and start thinking about how it will fail. What will failure look like? What is the track to failure look like? So we know that Ben is putting billions and billions and billions of dollars into the hands of the banks. We know what they're buying. I already told you that in the other videos. I'm not going to go back through it. But one of the things that they're buying, and if you look at high-end blue chip style companies with good track records of profit, dividends back to shareholders right now, and you look at their shareholder records, you'll see their highest holding shareholders are banks in many cases. Chase, Bank of America, etc. So they're buying this stock. So what can billions do to a market? Well, when you first start pumping money into a market, you drive it up, right? Then you take short positions on the backside of the market. A short position means you have an option to sell, and if you buy right, when the stock goes down, you actually make money. Okay? I can't go into options trading right now, but that's how it works. So collectively, you and all your big bank buddies decide how you're going to do this, and you take profits. So as the companies increase, you've held long enough to capture a dividend, all of you exit a few of your positions, and you take profits for a short-term drop. And you say it on the news, it's profit-taking. You've heard that before. It's a slight correction. Don't worry, it will rebound. They're just taking their profits. So then you create the short-term drop. Every time you take profits on gains, you also take profits on your short positions. You re-enter the market and drive it back up. And you create a stair-step rise in a bull market. Don't think it can't happen, folks. It's exactly how it happened last time with different source of the funding. Along the way, we get the effect of a rising tide floating all boats. So many other stocks that aren't necessarily being directly influenced by these bankers come up. Now, if you think I'm saying put all your money in the stock market, you are a fool. You better be very careful if you put money in the stock market right now. You better really know what you're doing. Smart day traders will make a fortune during this period. I'm not a smart day trader. That's not what I do. I think long term, and I protect my ass. You can do either one, but know what you're dealing with. That's what I'm trying to tell you. All right, next. The thing you do next to really make an illusion is as a bank, you start to buy you some of the extra money that Ben's dealing out to you and doling out to you, and some of the money that you're creating out of thin air by starting to lend money again into the housing market, right? Because you can defer all your bad loans over to Ben and keep all your good ones. Remember that? Okay, so you take the money that you're creating through monetary creation and through your gift basket from Ben Bernanke, and you buy back your own shares. Now, why would a bank buy back their own shares? When a bank buys back its own shares and dissolves them into the company, they dilute the number of shares on the market. Think about this. So every time they buy back, 100,000 shares or 1 million shares or whatever, depending on how big the valuation of the stock is, when they buy those shares up and they pull them back into the company and they dissolve them, they reduce the total shares that are out there. What does that do to the dividend yield? It increases the dividend. It makes the bank look more profitable. It's the same profit distributed to less shareholders, so it shows a higher dividend, so it heats up the banking sector while the entire concept of dividends being the place to go is heating up, and the market's on a rally. You get it? This is how you set the freaking trap for the dumbass herd that comes in at the end, not the beginning. Then you bail out. You exit your positions everywhere, and you convert to your commodity-backed assets. And when you do it, because you've taken profits over and over and over during the run, once again, the financial liars talk everybody off of the ledge and say it's just another correction. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And then it falls off the back end. Everybody panics and the market goes to crap again. This is what you're going to get. And it's not just QE3 or QE infinity, as I call it. There'll be more versions of quantitative easing. They will keep pumping it and pumping it and pumping it. You heard pump and dump? This is going to be the largest pump and dump you've ever seen in your life. This is legalized institutional insider trading. They're doing it right now, right in front of your eyes, and people are either going, we're on our way to recovery, or it's over, and they're not seeing the middle. Generally, the middle holds the truth. This is what I see coming. This is why. Now, the other thing we heard a lot of rattling about on my blog, where I had the videos embedded and the video comments themselves, well, China doesn't have to sit back and do all, just let us do this. No, China's playing right along with it. China's waiting for it to happen. China has no interest in accelerating this. They've got their playbook down square. Look, first understand, the Chinese central bank is the Chinese government. Do you get that? The Chinese central bank is the Chinese government. If you don't understand that, you don't understand anything, because the reality is the Federal Reserve banking cartel is not the U.S. government. So when the Federal Reserve, the central banks, and the big institutional lending institutions and banks are buying gold, holding commodities, they're not in the hands of the people. They're in the hands of the banks. The government holds the debt. The reserve banks hold the gold, commodities, stocks, real estate. Got it? I'm not saying the Chinese have a better system. I'm telling you, when we created a stupid economic system, their play works better from a government standpoint. Because the Chinese central bank is the Chinese government. So when the Chinese central bank buys real estate in Africa, that's on, gold mine producing real estate, right? Or timberland or agricultural land or gold or anything, the Chinese government is buying it. It's being held by the government, not by a private institution that can haul ass someday and take the wealth and go elsewhere with it. The Chinese government's buying lots of gold. And as I just said, that means that they're actually buying the gold and holding it at the national level, not in this quasi-fascist interplay, quasi-governmental organization, the Federal Reserve. The Chinese government's doing something the U.S. government is doing everything it can to prevent. It's promoting private silver ownership. Realizing that most of its citizens can't afford to hold significant amounts of gold, China has turned to silver. If you are a Chinese citizen living in China right now, you can go down to a bank and you can get a bank account where all of your money is held in silver. You get your payment from the government or whoever you work for. You go down, you deposit it. It's immediately converted to silver. You get yourself a little card just like we use over here, like a debit card. When you go buy something at the store, you are paying with silver. You are holding silver. They can do that. You cannot. It was built on the model of the Perth Mint in Australia, where right now anybody in the world can go set up an account that does this with gold, except for one group of people. Guess who it is? American citizens. If you have a passport from any nation other than the United States of America, they will be happy to set you up with a gold account that works just like these accounts work for Chinese citizens, but you can't do it as an American. You are the one nation they won't deal with because your government has such intensive regulations to do this that you're not worth their time to do business with. You have to really think about that. And then think about the fact that at the same time, the Chinese government's encouraging silver ownership and telling its people, we'll pay you with the monopoly money, convert it to silver, and put it into a bank. And this is happening on a large scale. I have friends that have spent significant time in China that have verified it's not just something that you hear about, in some alternative media spin here and there, that when they go there, you can actually go into the bank, talk to them, and see this is how many Chinese are banking today. The Chinese government is buying up not just gold and silver, but mines. Understanding that you can only store so much gold and silver, that future production is important, and they're doing most of this in Africa. They're also buying up large agricultural and timber reserves. The Chinese government is going heavy into a commodities play. When this thing crashes, China will go through its own depression/recession. We all will. The whole world will. This is not a U.S. problem. It's a global problem that the U.S. is leading the world into, because everybody bought in to what we were doing back in, right after World War II, okay? And then further with Bretton Woods, etc. And now everybody's tethered to us. They're getting ready for the tether to break. The two that are going to do the worst in this are the U.S. and Europe. The rest of the world is the one that's playing this smart. The people in this country that are holding the wealth are independent. They're not government based. They're going to screw the people. And I'm not saying, again, that the Chinese are good guys or anything, but in the end, they're going to be in a much better position on the chessboard to rebuild after this happens. So they've got gold, they've got their citizens owning silver, they've got gold and silver mining operations, they've got agricultural and timber reserves. What else do they need? The Chinese government's buying exclusive contracts on food exports. This has been going back for years. So they're going to small neighboring countries that are net exporters of food and saying, we'll buy a contract for the next 10 years to buy 100% of your exported rice. Sign on the dotted line. We'll guarantee you we'll buy all of it you can produce. We'll guarantee the price in advance. We'll guarantee it. And it will even put some guarantees in there that if the market really goes up, that we will give you kind of a premium on that year. And they're doing this in spades. So they're going to be able to feed their people, they're going to be able to build, they're going to be able to grow more food, they're going to have the commodity backing in silver and gold in the hands of the government and the people. You think they're playing this a little bit better than we are? I do. So what do you need to do now? There is going to be money made in the stock market. And this can kick could go 6 months to 3 years or more. I don't know. I'm just telling you, if you're going to do that, if you're going to go in there and day trade, you better know what you're doing. Be very careful and follow what Carl Denninger would tell you. Don't let the sun go down on your money. Put the money in during the day, make the trade in the day, make the profit and exit to cash in the evening. That's how these really good guys do this. And if you're going to do anything else, I don't know, man. That's not my play. The long play right now is food, resources, commodities, and metal. This is where lasting value is. The big money's already positioned there. It's already positioned there. Again, this is a trap that they've set for you. One of the things you need to do is start storing food now. Specifically, store what you eat. I'm not telling you to go out and buy a pallet of long-term storage food. That actually works for certain things, but at least start out with making sure that for the next 30 days, if you couldn't leave your house, nobody would go hungry. Maybe you'd get bored, but you wouldn't be hungry. If you don't have 30 days worth of self-sufficiency when this thing hits, you're screwed. That's going to be the panic period. And what's going to happen after that, we don't know yet. It all depends on what the backside of the boot looks like when it kicks us in the ass. It could go to utter pandemonium, but you got to be at least able to do that. I say strive for more like 6 months to a year, but 30 to 90 days will get you through the initial panic phase when everybody freaks out. 2, acquire a means of defense and real-world training on it. If you have a concealed handgun and the only course you ever took was the course so you could get your permit, you are not trained, you do not know what the hell you're doing, you do not know how to defend yourself. And you may very well need to defend yourself in a panic period and in areas without rule of law when everybody freaks the hell out. We have absolutely no idea where, when, and how this stuff's going to go down, but we know what. And when it goes down with the what, it goes down the what that's always happened in history. There's places where the tyrannical boot of government comes down harder on the neck, and there's places where crime explodes. There's places where organized crime explodes. All of that is coming. Be prepared for it. Next, increase your situational awareness at all levels. Stop listening to one source for your information. I don't care how valid you think that source is. Listen to all the sources, including the mainstream lame-ass media, because they're telling you what your fellow American who is asleep is thinking. You need to know what the people around you that are freaking clueless are thinking. So that's part of your situational awareness. But I mean in your day-to-day life. No more pumping gas with your earbuds in. That's a great way to get mugged, stabbed, shot, have the shit beat out of you, be carjacked. Am I saying there's a big risk of that today? No, I'm saying don't be in the habit of it because there might be a big risk of that tomorrow. Situational awareness all around. Where are you going? Why are you going there? How long are you going to stay there? What kind of risk is there? Think this way. This is not paranoia. This is proper planning and be intelligent. In the words of Frank Sharp Jr. from Fortress Defense Consultants, don't do stupid things in stupid places with stupid people, and you'll probably stay alive. Increase that situational awareness. From the living standpoint, if you can, get your ass away from major urban centers. This is going to be where the worst of the worst happens, including large suburban areas surrounding them. You need to back off, significantly back off. If you can't do it, I understand. You have a job, it pays well, you got good schools for your kids, you believe the paradigm isn't going to shift that radically, whatever, that's fine. Because we don't know exactly when, how, what, where. We just know that it will. Okay? So because of that, I can understand why some people say, then you better have a plan to leave. You better know that there's certain triggers that I'm going to get the hell out of here and where you're going to go. And have a place prepared, whether it's doubling up with a relative, whether it's setting up, you were going to call it a vacation home, but it's really a bug out location. I don't care what it is. Have a place that you can extract yourself, your family, and those you love if it comes to it, especially if you're living close to major urban centers, because they will explode when this thing comes apart. When some of these people find out that their food stamp card still has the same number on it, but it'll only buy 10% of the food or 20% of the food that it did the day before, they're going to snap out. There was an incident in Atlanta, Georgia. People went 2 days, because one was a government holiday, without their food cards being recharged, and they damn near tore the wall off the building while it was closed. There wasn't even anybody in there. That was one incident in one place for 48 hours. Think about the long-term impacts of things like this. The big thing, though, develop your skills, your tools, your knowledge, etc. Start a business. I know that sounds crazy with everything I'm saying, but learn how to create value. You're going to do much better if you know how to create value after the shift than people with an employee mindset. Think about things that you can learn to do or set yourself up to be able to do that are going to be important no matter whether or not the typical economy is running. People got to eat. People got to get places. People have to be protected. People need tools. People need things fixed. I'm basing this on feedback directly from people from the Balkan region after the war, during the rebuilding, from people out of the Soviet Union, from people out of Argentina, saying these exact same things, that the skills, the knowledge, and the tools are as important as the stuff. Expand your view of investing. Food production, arable land, anything you can do. If you right now can move from a suburban crap hole where your neighbor's fence is so close that you can touch your back to your house and stick your hand out and nearly touch his fence, if you can get out of there and for about the same cost move yourself to an area with an acre or two where you can produce your own food, that's a bigger investment long term in the scenarios that we're running into. If you stay in the middle of suburban hell, you're going to be captive after the paradigm shift. There's going to be no way out. Right now, we're getting a grace period as far as I'm concerned. An opportunity to extract ourselves from the trap and to put ourselves into a better position so that we can look forward over the next 30 years and saying, how am I going to take care of myself, my family, my community if everything else goes to crap for the next 30 years? And that's the time horizon you need to be thinking in right now. I hope this closes the loop on some of your questions. I hope I don't sound arrogant when I say I told you this was going to happen. It did. But you don't believe me unless I can go back and point to places where I've pointed this out before. If you talk to people in my audience that have listened for a long time, that have listened for 3 and 4 years, they'll tell you I've always admitted when I'm wrong. I've always come out and said I got this one wrong and here's why. And that most of the time I've been dead on right. That I get emails every day from people going, Jack, you were right again. And my response is crap. I don't want to be right about these things. I don't want these things to be true. Unfortunately, they are. Now you know what's coming. Now you know what to do about it. You could tell me I'm wrong if you want to. Or if you really think about the way I've laid this out for you, maybe you'll realize this is the plan. And it's not a plan because 100 years ago they decided in 2012 we'll have it to a point where it has to go over the edge. It's the plan because the paradigm has failed. Those behind the paradigm know it has failed. And this is the only out they have. You ask me how I'm so sure about this? Because if I was a sleazy person that was running this show, and I had no other choice. I knew what was coming, and I had to set up an exit and conversion strategy. It's what I would do. I'm allowing myself to put myself into their shoes and think the way they do, as vile as that is to me. And that's how we dissect crime. That's how we dissect criminal activity. That's how we profile criminals. It's basically what we're doing here. We're profiling legalized criminal activity, legalized theft, legalized insider trading. I hope this video doesn't scare you. I hope it empowers you. I hope you realize that you are in control of your own life. And as I always say, my friends, the revolution is you.